Hey everybody, you are now tuned in to a special edition show on AfroVibes Radio Houston, supporting upcoming elections right here in the Houston area. And you are tuned in with Sequila Lewis, the host of The Blackout.
And this is Mercy Jordan, host of Mercy in the Morning on AfroVibes Radio.
And this is Joa Hernandez-Caston hosting Challenge the Norm on Mondays at 4.
So we are so excited this morning. We have a legend in the room, everybody, okay? A Houston legend, the wonderful Mr. Mayor Sylvester Turner.
Good
thank
morning.
you so much for coming down to AfroVibes.
Well, look, thank you all for having me. I've been looking forward to coming to AfroVibes, and so thank you. And to everybody that's listening, it's just an honor to be in the house.
Absolutely. So before we begin, why don't you properly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background being a native of Houston?
Native Houstonian, grew up in Northwest Houston, Acres Home. I say the hood, the fofo. and as mayor, I still live in the same neighborhood in which I was born and reared. I'm still in Acres Home, still in the fofo. It's my way of saying to other kids similarly situated, come out of these neighborhoods, that you can grow up and one day become the mayor. Come out of a large family of 9. Neither one of my parents graduated from high school. I don't say that in a negative sense. Right. They worked real hard. Dad died early when I was 13. My mom, this maid who worked at the Rice Hotel downtown, reared 9 kids, by herself. She was the CEO of the Turner household. She was the one who signed the loan papers that enabled me to go to Harvard Law School. Wow. And the only time she flew, boarded a plane, was to come and see her son graduate from Harvard in her 91 years, before she passed. So University of Houston, Harvard, was a partner in a law firm downtown for 32 years, worked in the legislature for 27, and now the mayor of the city. I've got a daughter that I'm extremely proud of, who's carving her own path, doing her own thing. And she's doing it extremely well. So I'm very proud of my daughter Ashley, and then I'm just honored to be here. I have the privilege of representing the most diverse city in the United States of America, with a large African population. In fact, the largest Nigerian population in the country is right here in the city of Houston. But the diversity is important. But every single day we don't work just to be diverse, we work to be inclusive. So that's important. And I'm honored to be the mayor of the city of Houston, and I want to thank people for allowing me to be their mayor.
Absolutely. Well, since you brought up diversity, why don't you
Yes, I wanted to touch on that. I know that recently we had the 2019 Houston Consular Ball.
Yes.
Over 94 consulates in Houston, making up the Houston core. Number 3 in the nation.
The third largest.
Yeah, so why is it important for us to be welcoming both internationally, especially we're living in an age of globalization. Right. Why is it important for Houston especially?
Because we are an international global city. And in order to be that, you have to have a global reach. Right. And in order to have a global reach, you need the consular core. Yes. And we happen to have the third largest. It doesn't make any sense, for example, when you talk about being inclusive and being diverse, and 1 of 4 Houstonian is foreign born. Right. 1 out of 4. Yeah. And so that diversity is not going to change, but it is important for us to be inclusive, to let people know, regardless of where you come from, this is Houston is your home. Okay? But you still, that doesn't mean that you sever your relationships or your ties, but it also means is that the city of Houston has to reach out to those respective countries and build those relationships, whether in business, whether in exchanges, you name it. We need to establish those connections. So we have the third largest consular corps. I'm not satisfied with that. We need to be, if we are the most diverse, we need to be number 1.
Absolutely.
And so we're building on that. In particular, for example, from Nigeria, that consular corps is in Atlanta. Now you know that's not sitting well with me.
We're going to talk to I'm a Nigerian native, and so I understand how important it is, and we talked about the numbers there. Yeah. And I also want to touch on, segmenting from the consular ball. We know it was the 50th anniversary of the lunar landing.
Yes.
Why is it important for tech and science and innovation to
Because when it comes to tech and science, quite frankly, NASA and the Johnson Space Center led the way. And the focus for the city right now is on technology, startups, and innovation. NASA led the way. We're still looking at, for example, returning to the moon in 2024, and we'll be at the forefront of that. we're the energy capital of the world. We're the largest medical center in the world. Technology is just a core of the city. But we also have to recognize that if we want to hold on to our talent and if we want to meet the needs of the industry and the things that are here, we have to establish this vibrant ecosystem. And NASA has been a vital part of leading us in that direction.
Awesome.
Absolutely. What about you?
Well, I represent the Latina community, so I'm just wondering, you appreciate the diversity,
yes.
and I am born here, but my dad's not. So what are your plans to make the community feel safer? Because it is a time in which I feel like we're focusing a lot on blacks and whites and not really on Hispanics when it comes to supporting the community. So what are your plans for that?
And that's, we have a large Hispanic Latino population in the city of Houston.
Yeah.
And it adds to the vibrancy of our city. And it's important for that representation to be at the seat of power, decision making. Under my administration, for the first time in history, you have a Latino, Hispanic, fire chief, and a police chief all at the same time. That has never happened before in the 183-year history. When it comes to other boards and commissions, Terry Morales, I placed her on the Metro board. Juliet DePetch, Hispanic. I created the Department of Education. She is over that. She is the director. When it comes to ARA, our Regulatory Administrative Department, Tina Pies, Hispanic woman, is on that. When it comes to Houston First, selling our city in tourism, Elizabeth Brock, Hispanic, Sophia Andrige, Hispanic. I named them and appointed them and placed them there. So it is important. The person who's over my mayor's office with people with disability, Gabe Casares, Hispanic, millennial. I just appointed him and put him there. The person over my boards and commissions, the entire boards and commission has the responsibility of naming and putting people on those boards and commission. Maria Montez, a millennial, who I put in that position. So it's not enough to say we're diverse, and it's about being inclusive, and it's about placing people at the table of decision making because people want to see people who look like them.
Yes.
Okay? I'm the mayor, but I can't do everything, which means you have to place that diversity in positions so that they can make decisions and then make sure that their community is factored in and taken into account. So the director of the airport system, Mario Diaz, Hispanic. Okay, so I've tried not to just talk it.
Yeah.
I've tried to walk it as well.
Yeah.
And that's in every community that exists. My goal is to, and I'm especially sensitive to putting millennials in positions because you can't build a city on yesterday. You have to build a city now looking forward. And millennials should be at the table of decision making, both in boards and positions and in employment opportunities as well. And I'm very intentional about that.
I actually really like how you just said that you like to be very active in the community, because I actually previously met you at a Afro-Cuban art exhibit at the Jeet Gallery, and so that was just amazing because you don't just say it, like you are very active.
Well, come to the October 27th Jazz Festival at Miller Outdoor.
I was hoping you were going to talk about
it's
jazz.
It's that Afro-Latino flavor that you will see 6 o'clock on October 27th, because we have such talent. And that's another thing. You have to invest in the arts and the diversity of the arts. And that Afro-Latino jazz, will showcase the diversity of our city October 27th. We are partnering with Texas Southern University on that. It's the first that's taking place in the city of Houston. Partnering with Texas Southern at Miller Outdoor, October 27th. No charge. Everybody's invited, and I hope we'll see them on the hill.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so being that you are a Houstonian and a native of Acres Home, you have been so diligent in giving back to the community and participating in events that celebrate excellence amongst people of color. Why do you feel like it's imperative to preserve our inner city neighborhoods for areas like 3rd Ward and 5th Ward? Because I know they're fighting a lot of gentrification right now. And just giving exposure to more black and brown businesses that want to enter the market.
Number one, you want to maintain your history and your culture. You don't want to eliminate your history. You don't want to eliminate the culture that exists, the personality of these communities. Third Ward, the trade. There's a lot of history there. You don't want gentrification, which means you have to invest. You have to make sure that it remains affordable for people who have been there and for those who want to live there, for the children who want to return. Right. That's important. Fifth Ward, the nickel. A lot of history there. The East End, Denver Harbor, Magnolia Place, Manchester, Second Ward. You have to invest because you want to maintain the history. Otherwise, developers will come in and your community will change, and the people who have been there for years and decades will be no more. Okay? So you have to be very intentional. Acres Home, that's the fofo. You don't want to lose that. Independent Heights, which means that from my perspective, especially being a person of color, okay, from my perspective as mayor, I have to make sure that it's taking place. I have to make sure that the policies that we put in place, the decisions that we're making with people in mind and communities in mind. Yeah. So I don't want to see what happened to Freedmanstown, Fourth Ward, just be eliminated. Because when the slaves got the news in Galveston in 1865 that they were free, they left Galveston, they headed north, and many of them landed in Freedmanstown, which became Fourth Ward, which in large part now is Midtown. Well, if you look, the history is leaving. And so what we're trying to do right now is to hold on to those historical areas in Freedmanstown, Fourth Ward, to preserve them and bring life back to those areas so that the history is not totally displaced. One way to remove diversity is to just eliminate the history. If you can eliminate the history, then the younger generation that's coming through won't know from whence they have come. And that's why with the diversity within our city, I don't want people to exclude their African heritage. That's why we, on an annual basis, we have African Day at City Hall. Okay? I don't want people to wipe away or forget from whence they've come, because once you do that, then it's kind of hard to lead going forward if you don't recognize the value from which you have come and the history. And for our young generation, they need to know that they come from a heritage of kings and queens and mathematicians and scientists and people who have done great things. That's in their bloodline. That's who they are. So when you know that, nobody can tell you what you can't do, because you come from a history of said we have done. Okay, and we want to make sure in our city that we hold on to that culture, to that history, to that personality.
Absolutely. And we know you've done a great job, because I even saw you at the Taste of Africa Gala, and you were just checking out the artwork and just saying like how one of the portraits reminded of your mother. I know you're so culturally attached, and we interconnect that here with the African and the Black community. How do you feel like we could build a stronger ties when it comes to that business between us?
Well, and that's when the communication is important. Just like being here on this network is important. Having that connection between City Hall and like AfroVibes, I mean, that's important. You have to be connected. And quite frankly, you have to find ways to get into the actual communities themselves. Otherwise, you can be diverse and you can be separate, segregated, and apart. Okay? But it's important for me to be the mayor, not just on Bagby Street downtown, but to make sure that I am getting out in the community, the neighborhood, so people can talk to you, touch you. You can eat with them, dance with them, celebrate their festivals, the events that are taking place. Because at the end of the day, if people don't feel like you are their mayor, then you are somebody else's mayor. Okay? So you have to get where people feel as though you have embraced them, and in return they embrace you. And that's when you know that you're successful. I had a little girl yesterday, African American. She came up to me. Her name was Miracle, and she was in the 5th grade. And she came up to me and she said, she had her hands on her face, like she was shocked to meet me. And then she said, I want to be mayor. And I said, Miracle, and I'm going to support you in being mayor. And in all of our communities, especially communities that are diverse and communities of color, You want to do what you can to inspire, to encourage, and to let people know, especially our kids, strive for the highest level. And we do that by connecting with them and being where they are.
Now, I want to ask about, despite being such a diverse city,
right.
Houston is known for the Houston Strong,
yes.
the coming together. 2017, Harvey hit.
Yes.
2019, Imelda.
But
yet we are still able to come together and do what is needed to keep
2016, the tax day flood.
Right.
We are strong. We are resilient. But look at the diversity of our city and where people come from.
Yeah.
People are resilient. There are people who came here with little or nothing.
Right.
But that didn't keep them down.
Right.
People face challenges, but they've overcome those challenges.
Absolutely.
I'm one of 9. Mom made, okay? And my mother would tell us all the time, tomorrow will be better than the day, son.
Yep.
Okay?
Right.
So we are, this is a resilient city,
Absolutely.
a strong. We go big or we go home.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
If you think it, you can achieve it. Okay? We believe. And we're at our best when we value the diversity and recognizing that diversity is our richness.
Awesome.
Because you'll never be broke when you live in a diverse society.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We got to go to a quick break,
Okay.
but you want to take us out?
Sure. Well, you're listening to AfroVibes exclusive. We're here with Honorable Sylvester Turner, the mayor of the city of Houston. We'll be right back, so stay tuned. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, you listen to AfroVibes Radio. This is an exclusive. We're here with the mayor of Houston, Honorable Sylvester Turner. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Mercy from Mercy in the Morning on AfroVibes Radio.
Tequila from the Blackout.
And Joie from Challenge the Norm.
Obviously representing the diversity that Houston is.
I love it.
And we're going to let Tequila go ahead with that.
Absolutely. So we're going to go straight into your policies and reforms.
Okay.
So in 2016, in your inaugural speech, you mentioned expanding Houston would be necessary due to our constant growth and being a developed region. So tell us about how you've worked with certain areas of the city to combat transportation through the Metro referendum, continuing to decrease unemployment rates, and providing economical housing.
Okay. Let me try to deal with that very briefly. In terms of traffic, transit, mobility, the city is growing. We're expecting about 3.8 million people between now and 2040. I support Metro next because we do need a transportation transit paradigm shift. In the 1990s, we built roads. Okay? But now we need more multimodal forms of transportation. We need more light rail. Okay? That's in the Metro next. More bus rapid transit, rubber on wheels, but it's effective. It's not as costly as light rail, so that's a part of this. We're having light rail now going to Hobby Airport. That's a part of the deal. We eventually need to get to Intercontinental. Two-way HOV lanes, all times of the day on these freeways. More park and rides. We need more money for sidewalks, especially for people in our disability community and seniors, for example. So that's a part of this deal. And we need to start designing and building a city that's more walkable, pedestrian friendly. People want to be able to walk to their destination. So as we densify, and we are densifying and building up, then we need to establish more walkable, pedestrian-friendly city. And then we're turning more and more to electric vehicles, transit. So that's a part of the plan. With respect to employment, more people are working in the city now than ever before. In June and July, the unemployment rate was the lowest since 1981, in almost 40 years. When it comes to my summer job youth program, when I came in 4 years ago, 450 summer jobs.
Wow.
This summer, 11,400 to students 16 to 24. Paid. These are not volunteers. These are paid. Next year, the goal is to take that number up to 15,000. And with respect to the city, especially for millennials, we want a city that's affordable because we don't want to have a city where you're forcing people out because they can't afford to stay. And in that vein, we have increased the hourly wages for our janitors, security workers, for example. Just last week, I signed an executive order increasing the pay for our employees at the airports. And I'm not talking about the city employees. I'm talking about working for vendors, subcontractors, because their average pay was $8.34. You can't make it on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we've increased that and told the concessions and airlines you got to pay more. So those are some of the things that we are doing to put people in a better position and providing them with jobs and business opportunities, startups, technology, innovation. Just on that alone, 3,000 of the startups that have taken place in the city are women-owned businesses, creating job opportunities. And we want to make sure that as we move forward, that diversity is a part of the economic viability of our city.
Awesome. Now, before the break, we did touch on Harvey, we touched on Imelda, we touched on the flooding that happened in Houston. What are some of the projects that are happening, the initiatives that are taken to help protect us when it comes to flooding?
And I'm glad you asked that question. There were 4 priority projects that we have identified to get funding from FEMA, from the federal government, to mitigate the risk. One project, for example, in the Kingwood area that flooded, we're building 10 big gates. That will help them on that end. That was their number 1 priority. That has been approved, and the funding is available. In the northwest side, close to Acres Home, there's this Inwood Golf Course, 229 acres. We're taking that and turning that into a major detention basin. It will hold more water than the Astrodome.
Wow.
But we're not just going to dig a hole. It will turn into like a recreational complex, hike and bike trails, things of that nature. That project has been approved and funded. We're going to move forward on that. The third one is the North Canal, which will benefit the central Houston area, the Theater District, the Heights community, Yale. That project has been talked about since the 1940s. It will be the largest stormwater project in the entire state, $131 million. That project has been approved and now fully funded, scheduled to be complete in 2022.
Awesome.
The fourth one is in West Houston. We're still working on that. But of the 4 top priorities, flooding mitigation infrastructure projects, 3 of the 4 have been approved and now fully funded. We are doubling the number of storm water projects in every city council districts. And we are instituting what we call the green infrastructure, because parks and green space will help to mitigate the risk of flooding. And then as of September 1 of last year, when people are constructing new homes, new developments, you have to build 2 feet higher above the 500-year floodplain.
Yeah.
Very good.
So earlier you mentioned that you're increasing some job pays, such as janitors, which unfortunately tends to be the job that a lot of immigrants that choose to, or that have to move here end up taking. So I'm proud of that. But is there anything else that you plan on doing to make immigrants feel more welcome or safer in this community?
When I came in, because you have a number of immigrants and in our city coming to our city, many times when people are coming from outside the city, especially when they're coming from outside the country, they come and they don't know what's available for them.
Right.
And so they end up getting siloed. And they don't know how to connect. They don't know what the services are. And so I established the department at the city, New Americans. Okay? And it has an advisory board. The goal of the New Americans department, and there are many people on that are part of the advisory board, are immigrants, or they're leaders from various groups that work directly with the immigrant and refugee community. That is one way of us reaching out to these different communities in different geographical areas to let them know about the services that are available, to kind of bring them in, to let them know this is a welcoming city. So we're doing that. The library, for example, you can go and get passports and other things from the various libraries. We're doing that. We've also included the municipal courts in that process as well. And the public health department is reaching out to our immigrant refugee community. And then, quite frankly, from my point of view, every year we have the Immigrant Refugee Day. I have spoken at that event every single year. And then I have gone out to various communities in the Gulfton area and have sat in the living room and talked to immigrants and refugees in their living room, talking to them, eating their food, and letting them know, look, I don't care where you come from, I am your mayor, okay? And if you live in this city, then you are entitled to the services that are provided in this city. So when people are coming and they're new to our city and they are distrusting, okay, especially if they are undocumented, then you really have to be very, and the word I use, very intentional in reaching out to them and letting them know, look, the Houston Police Department is not ICE, okay? And we are here to meet their needs, because what we found during Hurricane Harvey, there were a lot of people who were immigrants in our city who were impacted, but they were not reaching out for the services.
Because of fear.
Because of fear.
Yeah.
And then, look, we have the census that's coming up.
Yes.
We want people to fill out the census. And now I really want to emphasize this. Okay, we want people to fill out the census. And it's not a government document that will be used against them, but it will help us to know who's in our city. It will help us to draw down federal dollars, and it will help us to meet their needs. So we want people to fill out the census. Don't be so distrusting that you don't do it, that you can go online. It will be mailed to you. We're going to be knocking on doors. But I really want to emphasize to the immigrant community, it is important for the city to know who's in our city. It doesn't matter the age, from the baby to the senior citizen, whether you're documented or undocumented. The census, it's not against them. The census will benefit them. And so we want them to help us to identify all the people that are within our city. And we know that with regards to the immigrant community, there will be a great deal of distrust.
Yes, and I wanted to ask you, what ways can we improve on making sure we allocate those resources and that they know that they exist within the community?
And that's when it comes to us, because for every person, no matter the age, that represents about $1,500. Okay? And last time we did it 10 years ago, we only counted about 70% of the people in our city. Can you imagine the amount of dollars that was left on the table?
Yeah.
You know, and it goes to political representation. Yeah. Okay? Knowing who you are, the numbers will determine the political representation. And now is the time when we need people in political positions that will represent the entire community, not just a part. And this is not about trying to make America great again. It's not about that. It's about building America and designing America that's inclusive and benefits all of us who are here and those who have yet to come. It's making it greater than it has ever been. That's where we are. And it's important for people like myself and others to reassure people over and over and over again that we are here to help you. We're not here to hurt you.
Do you feel like the climate that we live under is actually becoming an advantage to us as far as being entrepreneurs and having businesses and really understanding the cultures that we come from and finding our roots?
For the city, the answer is yes. I mean, there was a national magazine that said Houston is the city for millennials, okay, for graduates, business opportunities. You know, in many ways, Houston is the new Atlanta. For a long time, it was Atlanta, you know, was the place. Well, Houston is the new Atlanta. This is a good time to be in the city of Houston. The spirit is good. Yeah. People are embracing one another, supporting one another, encouraging one another. It's a good time. Now, I will tell you, leading a diverse city is not easy. Right. Okay, not everybody can lead a diverse city. If it's not in your DNA, forget it. Okay, but this is a good time to be in the city. It's a can-do city. We go big or we go home. Yes. And we don't like to be second. We want to be first.
Absolutely. Well, our show is definitely coming to an end. Before we get out of here, just let them know how they can learn more about your policies online and follow you.
Well, look, they can go to HoustonTX.gov. That's one way of doing it. Just pull us up online. Can I just say this? Yes. You know, bear in mind, this is the election season. Early voting starts Monday.
Going to remind our listeners.
Early voting starts Monday. Now, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for.
Y'all know who.
But look, let's not take anything for granted.
Right. Yes.
Who represents you is important.
Absolutely.
Don't be fooled, okay? Don't be fooled. But early voting starts Tuesday, and it's my hope that if you're registered to vote, that you will don't wake up the day after the election and then ask yourself, how did this happen? Right. And if I only had. No. If you've got the right, and if you value the diversity that exists in our city, and if you want opportunities to be for everybody and a city that embraces everyone, this election is important to you. And I would encourage you to go and vote on starting on Tuesday. Last day to vote is on November 5th. And this time around on November the 5th, you can go to any early voting location. You don't have to go to your neighborhood if you don't want to. You can return to that early voting location. And I'll only speak for me. You know, I will be casting my vote on Monday.
Who are you voting for, Mayor?
I'm voting for Sylvester, Sylvester.
Spell that out.
Turner, Turner. You know, El Cade for some, mayor for others.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes,
We're just so
thank you so
appreciative
much.
that you came today. We honor you. We respect you. And we're
Thank
just
you.
very hopeful that you will continue your legacy because you're a part of our history now. We're just so grateful for
Look,
you.
I love this city, and I love the people in this city.
Thank you
And
so
we
much.
love seeing you around.
Thank you.
So
Absolutely.
just keep
Well,
doing
Thank you.
that.
Thank you all for tuning into a special episode today on AfroVibes Radio. You are with your girl Tequila from The Blackout.
Mercy with Mercy in the Morning.
And Joie from Challenge the Norm.
And to stay up to date on our previous discussions and future events, please visit AfroVibes Facebook and Instagram at AfroVibes Radio, our Twitter at AfroVibes Radio with an S, and lastly, listen to us online at www.afrovibesradio.com or simply download the AfroVibes Radio app on the Apple or Google Play Store.